But going into the rest of the month, we've got some huge fights in November and beginning of December. So first up, we've obviously got Crawford Porter. That's the next big fight in the welterweight division. Yeah. And I think just the thing I wanted to ask you, Josh, was, is Porter going to be Crawford's biggest challenge to date?
Definitely at 147. I just want to preface like my statement off of, I think Crawford is a fantastic fighter. His resume all the way up to 140 is second to none. I mean, undisputed champion. He basically hasn't been tested yet. I mean, against Gamboa, he had a little bit of trouble in the beginning, but what a lot of people don't realize too is Gamboa used to spar with Terrence Crawford, and I feel like he knew Terrence. There's actually a video online that if you guys go check it out, it's Terrence Crawford versus Gamboa in his prime, and Gamboa beats Crawford up badly in the sparring. So it's rare to see.
I've never seen that. I need to check that.
Yeah, go definitely go check that out. I'll send it to you. But up to 140, great resume. After 147, he hasn't, in my opinion, really done anything at 147. Beating Amir Khan, Kell Brook, even Aegis Kavalaskis,
Jeff Horn, yes.
Yeah, Jeff Horn, like the guys he's beaten to even get the title weren't really top tier welterweights. But in my opinion, I don't feel like Terrence Crawford is a duck. I think Terrence Crawford's very competitive and he has all the skills in the world and he doesn't think anybody could beat him. PBC, top rank, they never worked together.
Yeah.
Throwing DAZN in there, and now you have Virgil Ortiz, who seems to work with Golden Boy, and he's basically all Golden Boy has left, right?
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's a product of promotion rather than Terrence Crawford. So hands down, Porter is his biggest test because Porter's been in there with all the top guys at 147. Yeah. Say what you want. He fought Kell Brook when Kell Brook was undefeated. He fought Errol Spence when Errol Spence is in the prime of his life, right? That fight with Errol Spence, it was close. I'm not going to sit here and say that Errol didn't fight a fight that I'm not used to Errol. Like, he didn't fight the way he should have fought Sean Porter. I felt like he decided to kind of bang a little more and bring the action in that fight, but he won. Caught him with that nice left, dropped him, and solidified it for me. Danny Garcia, in my opinion, I thought Danny beat Sean Porter, but he did make it a close fight, and Sean Porter is always in a contested fight. And then Keith Thurman, that was a fight of the year at candidate, I believe.
Yeah.
It was on free television, Fox 5, and it was a great fight. I thought it was very, very competitive. But hands down, I think Sean Porter is going to be his biggest test. I just think Crawford is just too good.
Yeah.
He's
do you think he needs to make a state like knock him out, or just put on a good performance that's, better than Spence did, basically?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he does have to beat Sean Porter better than Errol Spence because those are the two contemporaries. They're always going to compare each other to one another.
Yeah.
But if he knocks Sean Porter out, that's because nobody knocks Sean Porter out.
Yeah.
If he happens to do so, then I could sit here and say that you could start putting him at that 1B, even one. Actually, I would say right there with Usyk, where, look, the guy's talented. He has a nice big name on his resume, and you start putting that conversation together. Because right now I have Terrence Crawford at 3, pound for pound. Usyk, he beat Anthony Joshua. He's an undisputed cruiserweight champion. You have to give him respect. I arguably could say right now, you can put him at 1 or 2 based off that. Because Canelo, again, that whole Oscar Valdez and Canelo issue, that stuff really just bothers me a little bit. And I don't think there's been clarity. But yeah, I think Terrence Crawford, hands down, might be the most talented fighter in the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely agree. Like, I've obviously just recently done my boxing style analysis video on him. I don't know if you've seen
I was just watching that, actually.
Yeah, too. Yeah. And I think I'm just amazed by how good he is at finishing off guys. And he's just such a calm fighter. He doesn't rush anything too much. And I recommend, like, just anyone watching, just watch one of his fights, and he's so relaxed in all his fights. You know, he just takes his time. He doesn't tend to like really switch stances like mid round. Really, he'll like fight orthodox. First round, check them out. Second round, come out southpaw, and then he'll start like going up the gears. But like I said, it's like he's just so calm while he goes through it, and then eventually just picks them apart, really. But he does get caught now and again. Like I've noticed, especially from like pressure fighters. You know, Gamboa caught him in that fight. I know that was down lightweight, and then the Felix Diaz fight. You know, he did get caught with like just unnecessary shots, and it's usually when he's in an orthodox stance. But I don't know if it's just to kind of give his opponent that kind of sense of comfort before he switches to a southpaw stance. And I think, but for Porter, I don't think that will be an issue in that fight. I think Porter, you know, I can just see him walking through those kind of shots, you know, but you never know. Like, he's such a good finisher. But it'll be a fascinating fight. I don't obviously expect Crawford to win that. I'll probably go to 12 rounds. But I think Porter will give him hell. I really do. I think he'll, like he did to Spence, you know, he just kept coming forward. And I think with the Spence fight, you know, Spence loves that kind of dog fight, doesn't he? He loves fighting on the inside. Yeah, he kind of got clipped a few times in that fight, but he loves it, you know. And whereas Crawford, when he gets hit, you sometimes get a sense of panic in him, unlike Spence. That's just from watching fights. But I don't know what you think about that, Josh. Do you think Crawford gets a bit panicky when he gets hit, or compared to like Spence?
I mean, when I watch Crawford, like you said, that was actually a very, very astute observation, where Crawford has his most trouble when he's orthodox. And when he's righty, he seems to get caught with shots that I feel like he doesn't really get clipped with when he's lefty.
Yeah.
One thing I did, just kind of to expound on what you were saying, he starts off orthodox, in my opinion, to condition his opponent to kind of adjust to being, all right, I'm in front of a righty. And then when you fight a righty, all of a sudden, all the stuff that you were doing against the righty sets you up negatively as a lefty, because now you're throwing that right hand that kind of lands sometimes, or that body jab that lands sometimes. Now you're fighting a lefty. You throw that same punch, you're actually in a horrible position. That's what happened to Amir Khan. Kell Brook was having success in the beginning, and then he catches you with a shot that you think you're safe because, oh, I was just hitting him. And now all of a sudden that same punch that was detrimental to Crawford becomes your biggest weakness. My only thing with Sean Porter is I actually think it's going to be a chess match. I don't think Sean Porter is going to put a lot of pressure. I think he's going to box a lot more than people give him credit for. That's kind of why I don't think Crawford's going to knock him out, because Sean Porter is going to move a lot. I feel like he's going to do what he did with Ugas, get on that back foot, be patient.
All right, interesting.
Kind of hidden spots, right?
Yeah.
But most important, Sean Porter and Crawford grew up together in the amateur system. Errol Spence, same thing. They're all kind of familiar with each other, and they're all part of the same camp. Kay Karoma, they know all the same guys. Shakur Stevenson. So I feel like when you're familiar with one another, you're always going to have a really, really hard fight because they know you. There's no element of surprise.
Yeah, it's always very close, those fights. Yeah, definitely.
So it's like Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo, all these guys, Virgil Ortiz, they all fought. They all fought in the amateurs. And so I don't know. I definitely favor Crawford, though, 100% in this fight. I'm trying to make the argument for Porter because I always like Sean Porter. I think he's a good fighter. I think it's a shame he's kind of in this era of welterweights. And I always remember watching the Kell Brook fight, and I always thought Porter won that fight as well. So I kind of do feel a bit sorry for him, but he's a good fighter. Like, I don't discredit him at all. I think he can, any kind of, B-level fighter, he's definitely beating them. I think he is like a top tier welterweight. But obviously he's just below that level of Spence and Crawford. He's so strong too, right?
He's strong. He's a real fit guy. Like, just yeah, amazing. So then after that, we've got Teofimo Lopez and Kambosos Jr. finally happening. Now, I've been watching Josh's stuff for a while now. He's done so many episodes on this,
Yeah, I
this
know.
fight. And are you happy it's finally happening, or do you just want it to get over and done with now?
I mean, I'm ecstatic. I'm a big Teofimo Lopez fan. I'm just happy that it's gonna finally happen because George Kambosos, I don't understand when the narrative came that he's this like knockout artist or this killer,
Yeah,
and I just don't see him beating Teofimo. I don't think he hits harder than Teo. I don't think he boxes better than Teo, and Lee Selby gave him issues. I mean, Lee Selby, great champion from before, but Lee Selby's nowhere near what he used to be, or nowhere near the level of even a Luke Campbell or anything like that.
yeah,
So I think it's a perfect mandatory fight. I think Teo needs it because I personally would be a little fearful if he went into a Lomachenko rematch off of Loma having two good fights, and he's been inactive since then. But I think Teo's going to take care of business. I think he's going to show all the new wrinkles. You're going to see Teo southpaw. You're going to see him boxing, but I think he's going to knock Kambosos out in 4 rounds, and
mm.
it's not a competitive fight in my opinion. No,
No,
I
yeah,
I hate saying it, but I just don't see Kambosos really having the complex defense to stop Teo. I don't see him having enough firepower to stop Teo,
yeah,
and I don't know if you've seen Teo lately, but he
yeah,
looks massive.
yeah.
He's a big kid,
Yeah,
and
like watching his training like footage is amazing. And he's brought in the Cuban coach, uh,
Jorge Rubio, that's my guy. I
Rubio.
love that
Yeah,
guy.
and yeah, his defense just looks so on point. Yeah, I'm really liking. Like this is the thing. He's been working throughout this whole time, and it must be so frustrating for them. This happening all the time, and the fights getting cancelled, and at least they're finally able to just get this done and moved out of the way. Like, I think I can't see Kambosos Jr. Doing anything really. I don't. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I agree.
Teofimo Lopez is so talented, and yeah, he need like that's the other question I was going to ask Josh. Does like Teofimo he needs to like go out there and just knock him out in those first kind of 3-4 rounds?
Yeah, I think
Like a
round
statement,
one.
you know?
I think round one, Teo's probably going to take it a little slow just to kind of get the nerves out, get the rust off, and even if it's round 3 or 4, I think Teo needs some time because he lost a year of his career in his prime. I
Uh,
mean, he's 23 right now, 23 turning
23,
24,
24, yeah.
and he lost an entire year off his career between the whole he got the virus, and then the constant postponements, Triller kind of pulled out, and it's been a mess, right? The zone picked it up, but I think Teo, and as a fan, I'm a little frustrated with Teo as well because he's been in the media constantly posting, dancing, doing all these things. I just want to see fight. I personally don't care about all the posting of essential water and his tequila. Like you were out of the limelight for a year and you lost relevancy.
I
I
know.
mean, you got people out there saying you're not even the WBC champion. Like
Mhm.
the zone is even playing that game where when they interview him, they say, "Oh, unified
Yeah, yeah.
lightweight champion." I'm just like, the zone, you're promoting the fight and you're gonna kind of push that Devin Haney narrative. It's crazy. Um,
Uh,
but I just want to see him put this to bed and then he can move on.
and you've been saying that you think it's all to set up the second fight with Lomachenko. It probably makes sense, more for Lomachenko than it does
Mhm.
Teofimo Lopez. I think Lopez should try and move up in weight now. They've been talking about him really struggling to get down to lightweight, 135 for a long time now, and uh, I, the longer he stays lightweight, that's my only concern for him. Could just him trying to lose that weight for each fight really make him not perform in the night. That's my concern about it. Because I feel like Teo's dangerous when he's got lots of energy and he's got that explosiveness. and the longer he stays down that way, that's my only concern. But I'd like, it's still a huge fight if he fought Lomachenko again. And I don't know how it would go, because obviously Lomachenko is, he's fought Nakatani, and then he's going to be and he's going to be fighting Comey in December as well. So he's had 2 fights this year, whereas Lopez will have only had 1 since the last Lomachenko fight.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. That's a bit worrying, if they were to make that rematch. What do you think about that? Do you think that could play in a factor into that, or?
I mean, here's the thing, right? In my opinion, I feel like this year, and this is something that happens to a lot of fighters. It happened to Andre Ward. It's happened to Mikey Garcia. You have a promotional issue. There's some gripe. Boxing's a very political business, right? As much as people don't want to believe it, politics play a massive part. And when you screw over someone like Bob Arum, he's going to come for you. And essentially, I feel that's what happened. He put him on the shelf for a year. I know he's saying that he has a direct partnership with ESPN, but ultimately Top Rank is Teofimo's promoter. So I feel like Teo is probably going to do the Lomachenko rematch or the Josh Taylor fight. I personally rather him do the Josh Taylor fight, because you already beat Loma. And if you beat Loma, at this point, the guy comes up with a million excuses. Like, I think Lomachenko's a talented fighter. He's just a horrible sore loser. Because next time, my back is burnt. Like, he's just going to come up with something constantly. So you already beat him 1 time, move up to 140. Like you said, make the weight comfortably. And, if you lose to Josh Taylor, you moved up and fought an undisputed champion at 140, your first fight. I do think, however, I kind of have a fringe theory where I think Jose Cepeda actually might be Teofimo's first fight at 140. You get a real 140 test. You get that buffer. They're under Top Rank. You give Cepeda a big fight. And then if he destroys Cepeda, who just came off a massive win with Josue Vargas, Josh Taylor has a fight with Catterall, I think. It got pushed back, right? It got pushed back
to February, I think, now,
Yeah, so now you have Teo fight Jose Cepeda in like February, right? Josh Taylor fights around there too. Now you have both of them fighting. Teo destroys Cepeda, which I think he'll beat Cepeda, in my opinion. I know Cepeda beat Josue Vargas, but I still think Teo knows how to fight lefties. And he's a little chinny, in my opinion, Cepeda, when he gets hit by a real puncher. So I think those two fight, they both win. And then Top Rank has their Teofimo going for undisputed versus Josh Taylor. The Devin Haney fight, I don't know how I feel about that fight. I'm not really big on the whole, he's not undisputed. I think, come on, Lomachenko.
Yeah, even Lomachenko said,
he's undisputed.
It's ridiculous. I hate that franchise belt. It's completely messed it all up, in my opinion. If hopefully they get rid of it one day, because I think until someone wins, until Teo moves up in weight or Haney, I think that's when they'll get rid of it. It's just poor from the WBC, I think, personally. I just don't know what they were thinking, just to get more money, obviously. But yeah, it's really frustrating. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Lopez comes out in that fight, and just to see him back in action, see how he's improved and stuff. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Then we'll see what happens. Some good theories about who you could potentially fight in the future, Josh. I'd quite like, obviously, as someone from Scotland, I'd quite like to see him face Josh Taylor. I think that would be a great.
That would be such a good fight, because I love Josh Taylor, truthfully.
And I love Teo. I actually really like Teo. It's funny. It's like I actually don't know who would win that fight. Be really close, I think. So yeah, hopefully we can see that one day. And then start of December, we have kind of the next kind of last big fight of the year, potentially. There is some fights after being announced, but it will be Davis versus Isaac Cruz. Now, personally, I've seen Isaac Cruz fight a couple of times. I've not really paid too much attention to him. But Josh, I'd love to just hear your opinion, because I know I've seen you post some stuff about Cruz and that he's actually going to be potentially tougher than Rolly was.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
So
Rolly.
I would just love to hear your opinion, because I don't really know too much about Cruz. I know he's from Mexico, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
from Mexico.
yeah.
The reason why I feel like Cruz can potentially give Gervonta Davis some issues, there are a few reasons. One, I feel like Davis hasn't fought someone that is as small in stature as Cruz. Like Cruz is very, very short and he's a
Yeah,
pressure
yeah,
fighter.
he looks at it. Yeah.
Gamboa, I know he lost the fight convincingly to Gervonta Davis, but there were moments where if old Gamboa was out there, he could have given Davis problems. And I feel like Isaac Cruz is going to go out there to actually put pressure on Davis. And he has enough power where Gervonta gets a little sloppy sometimes and fights in spurts and doesn't like to kind of work the whole round. And Cruz knows how to fight lefties. I don't know if you saw his fight with Magdaleno. Teofimo knocked out Magdaleno, but Isaac Cruz knocked out Magdaleno, I think, in the first round or second round.
Yeah.
And Magdaleno, for as much as he's like a stepping stone, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's Gervonta Davis, but he's no joke. And Isaac Cruz is someone that comes with knockout power. He's going to bring pressure, has a tremendous chin. He's fought Francisco El Bandito Vargas 2 times, and he beat Vargas both times.
Yeah.
So he has that big fight experience, and he's willing to take one to give one. I don't know if I'm going to sit here and say that he's going to beat Tank Davis, because I truthfully think Tank is talented. But if you want to put in Rolly Romero versus Tank, I think Isaac Cruz is a way more talented fighter than Rolly Romero, in my opinion.
Could potentially be a better fight as well in the end.
We're gonna get a fight. They're gonna fight. That's the thing. You're gonna get.
Yeah, he's going to come forward. Yeah, just from like what I've watched, he definitely comes forward and he looks an exciting fighter. Do you think Romero would have caused any problems for Davis, or do you think it would have been straightforward for Davis in the end? Yeah, if they would have fought.
I mean, again, this is part of that whole thing that I was mentioning before. Like, they're familiar with each other. Like, they spar in the same places. They're both part of the TMT stable. They've come across each other. Even Tio was a part of it too. They all kind of know each other.
Like you were saying before, yeah.
I just don't think Rolly is very good. Like, it would be great in terms for content, right? Like, you're gonna get a bunch of stuff to speak about. You're gonna get highlight clips. You could post stuff on YouTube. You can post stuff on Instagram, like really cool clips, because he's funny. But when it comes to boxing, I just don't think he hits as hard as people think. Like, he doesn't have power for elite level people. He has power for people that he can hit. Jackson Mariñez fought a real fighter in Richard Comey, and you saw how Comey stretched Mariñez. He hurt him badly. Rolly Romero couldn't stop Mariñez. So I don't think you're going to stop Gervonta Tank Davis, who took some good shots from Barrios. He's taken shots from Pedraza, who has shown that he can hit hard.
Yeah,
he's knocked people out that people didn't think he could. And Davis, for as much as I feel like Davis is protected, Mayweather is very, very safe with him. He's a talented fighter and has a punch that, wow, he can punch.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's actually my next boxing breakdown. I'm doing him right now.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, but like just what I've been watching, like his fights, and like he's such a strange fighter. Like, he's obviously extremely talented, but just from watching some footage back in like his last, he really takes his time, I feel, and then he starts a bit too late for me. And then it's once he starts it's like he starts getting hit, and then he just all of a sudden just turns it up, and then obviously knocks out whoever he's facing. But he's a very like slow starter, and I feel I don't know if that's kind of the Mayweather influence. He tells him just to take your time. This is a 12-round fight, which makes sense. But yeah, I just feel sometimes, he just needs to be careful in terms of leaving it that bit too late against a quality opponent, he will take advantage of that. What happens if he can't take him out of there?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
probably my concern at the moment. But I think he definitely has the potential to just keep getting better. He's only 26, I think.
Yeah.
He's real talented. I really like. Tank Davis fights are great to watch, obviously. And yeah, I'm really excited to see that fight. And like you're saying, I need to watch more Isaac Cruz, watch his previous fights, just to kind of get a better idea how he'll approach it. But yeah, it's just Tank Davis fights are always fun to watch, I have to admit. But yeah, no, I think I can't see Davis losing. Despite that, I think he always shows up, doesn't he? He always turns up. But it'll be interesting to see what he'll do after that. Obviously, the whole PBC Mayweather thing, wanting to keep him close into that network and not really let anyone else in. That's a bit disappointing for me, because I obviously want to see him eventually fight Garcia, Haney, Lopez, or Josh Taylor eventually, but it just doesn't seem like that will happen anytime soon. Not for a 3 or 4 years, even maybe.
Yeah, I totally agree. The one thing I do have to give Davis credit for in this particular case, and it's kind of, in my opinion, it's probably the smartest thing that Mayweather Promotions did, in my opinion, for Gervonta Davis. When he was fighting Rolly, the WBA is doing their whole consolidation project where they're trying to limit the number of belts. When he fights Rolly is the interim champion. Gervonta Davis is the regular WBA champion. So I think what they were trying to do is you make this narrative, Gervonta Tank Davis is the super champions mandatory, because you see what happened with Ugas, where Ugas just beat Pacquiao. He was the regular champion. Pacquiao, actually, sorry, he was the super champion. Pacquiao was the champion regular, right? He was in recess and then he reinstated. So now Ugas has to fight in a tournament in order to keep the super championship. That's why he can't fight Errol Spence, which is what they were trying to set up. So I think what Mayweather's trying to do is TMT, Ellerby, make Gervonta Tank Davis the mandatory for Teofimo. Teofimo probably won't stick around at 135.
Yeah.
You can sit here and then say, Teo's running to move up, and now Tank Davis becomes the WBA super champion, and then now he has the belt at 135, and now Tank Davis is a legitimate super champion. He has bargaining chips, and now the guys like Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, they all have to kind of capitulate the fact that Tank Davis is the super champion, has been on pay-per-view, and that whole A-side narrative, or make Teo fight him. Pretty much. Definitely. Yeah. Honestly, Teofimo and Tank Davis is a massive fight. I think Mayweather may be kind of at that point with Tank Davis, especially with all the gripes he's had, that he wants to kind of cash out on Tank. All right, let's get a big fight for you. I'll take my last big chunk from whatever I'm going to take, and then ride off into the sunset and move on.
Interesting. Who do you think out of those, upcoming, like, Teofimo, Haney, Garcia, Davis, which will be the first big fight between them all, do you think?
Personally, if those guys are going to fight, it's probably going to be the Devin Haney and Teo. If they were going to fight, I also could see potentially like Tank, if he is the super champion and Teo wants to stick around at 135. To me, that's probably the biggest fight at 135, because while Haney likes to talk, I'll have all these followers, he's never been on pay-per-view. As much as people say that Tank Davis fights whoever he fights, he's been on pay-per-view, and that fight with Barrios did fairly well. So he's a name that people know. They know he's big for knockouts. And him and Teofimo Lopez, one's going to be a good boxing match, and two, they both can knock each other out. People know both of them. Top Rank's darling and whoever TMT's darling, fight it out. You're going to sell. It's going to be on Showtime. You're going to get a massive, massive, massive audience. So I think those two would probably be the best fight, in my opinion, in terms of biggest. But I feel like Teo, for as much as I love him, just sometimes he needs to realize, stop negotiating in the press. Like when Haney ran up on him and he was like, we can make it happen. Why are you entertaining what he's saying? You're just building the narrative that the zone's trying to build, that Haney's the real champion, to position yourself to be Haney's mandatory. Because at the end of the day, Haney has no fights. He's fought I always forget this guy's
Linares.
Yeah, he's fought Linares, and that's it. And now he's fighting Jojo Diaz, who like beat Tevin Farmer and Fortuna.
Yeah, it's not.
He lost to Gary Russell at 130, or was it 126? 126. So Haney's gonna kill Jojo Diaz, and they're positioning him as I don't know. Haney, in my opinion, just doesn't deserve the shot.
I think he's just still in that development phase. I think if he goes into a fight, with Teo or Davis, I think I can't see him winning it. I think just we obviously saw in that Linares fight he did get shook, obviously, and that was such a strange fight for me because I've always been a huge Linares fan. I think he's I know he's well past his best now, but yeah, it was such a strange fight. Linares, the way Linares approached that, but Devin Haney, I felt at one point, he did step it up at one point and put the pressure on. I was like, oh, I quite like this. And then obviously he went back to his corner and he said, oh, just keep boxing, keep going in the back foot. And it was just a bit like, sometimes you just need to let the reins off and let him go for it. And he's only 22 as well, I think. And 22 or 23, I think. He's still so young. I think people forget.
He's, I think, 23.
Yeah, 23, yeah. So he's the same age as Teo, I think. So, yeah, I just don't want it to, pan out for, another 3, 4, 5 years before they actually fight, and they're in their late 20s. And maybe they'll be even better, but eventually there's not going to be anyone else to fight, and they're going to have to fight each other eventually. But yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how that all pans out and see how hopefully Davis can make a statement against Cruz or maybe an upset, who knows. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, Josh, no, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll leave Josh's channel link in the description below, and also his prediction video. I recommend you check that out for the plant, Caleb Plant video. And yeah, make sure to give him a subscribe. He has some great opinions on the sport and upcoming fights, so highly recommend that. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. As always, Josh, do you have some final words to say? Or?
Congrats on 5K, buddy.
Oh,
nice job. Yeah, man, that's fantastic. I mean, it couldn't have happened to a better guy, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
Good work.
Yeah, and thanks to all my followers and subscribers. Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Hopefully can grow the channel, and I'll start doing a lot more videos like this. I'll bring on Josh again, some other guys as well, and just talking boxing. So yeah, comment below, let us know what your thoughts were and all these upcoming fights as well. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Appreciate it.
Thank you again. Be well.